There we go. I see our members are joining quickly. Welcome to our Investments 101 session with Rudi Bouwer. As you guys are joining, use your chat function. Tell me who you are, where you're from, and is it your first, second, or third session that you're joining us with regards to the financial series? Yeah, I'm going to repeat as I see there's a lot of members that entered after me requesting that you guys please share who you are, where you're from, and is it your first, second, or third session that you are joining us. You can use the chat function to send through that information, and then during the session, if you've got any questions, you'll use your Q&A. So welcome Nicolene from Northwest University. This is her first session. If you guys missed any of our previous sessions, you're welcome to go to our YouTube channel, Golden Key Southern Africa, and you will be able to catch up on our previous sessions. Okay. Let's see. Apologies if I mispronounce any of the names. Angela is from PE, Anna Marie from Pretoria. We have Nisha, Danielle from Joburg, first session from Wits. We have Mark from Hof, Germany, third session. Caleb is here for his first session. Perry from Secunda, third session. Kelly Ann, welcome guys. Tally from Joburg, third session. Inga is the first session for me. Ayanda, okay, we have one of our advisors on. Hello, Ayanda, first session. Amy from Cape Town, first session. Cicely from East London, third session. Kelsey from Stellenbosch, third. Albert from Cape Town, first. We have Carla from Wellington, also third session. We have Dr. Nokove from PE, first session. Welcome guys, and thank you very much for joining. I see a lot of third sessions and a lot of the first sessions, so I don't know where our second session people are hiding out. Here we have one. Shane, welcome from Pretoria. So without any further ado, let me introduce you guys to our speaker today. So Rudi Bouwer is a financial planning specialist and director at the Wealth Room. He worked at the Discovery Institute of Training in Financial Planning and Services when he moved to PSG Wealth in Wealth Management, Financial Planning and Services. He became a financial advisor for PPS for a few years, whereafter he moved to be a financial planner for Discovery before he became the director and financial planning specialist for the Wealth Room. Rudi is a professionally qualified and experienced financial advisor and entrepreneur who focuses on lifestyle financial planning. He has extensively studied the relationship between money, psychology, and how that affects one's financial planning. He has more than 10 years' experience in the field of financial planning and is passionate about financial education and the difference that it could make to one's lifestyle. Thank you very much, Rudi. We enjoy having you on, and the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Gillian. I appreciate that. And hello, everybody, and welcome. It's good to see that we've got some Cape Town faces today and some PE faces, my hometown. And welcome from all over the country. It's really an honor and a privilege for me to be able to present to such an esteemed group of people, as I've always said. And it's really just truly a purpose for me to be able to share this information. My approach really, guys, is for you to be able to get information that's going to help you. I'm not for 1 second trying to prove that I know more than anybody. I think education is key, and enlightening a subject that is very what's the word I'm looking for? It's a subject that a lot of people approach with a lot of fear, and the fear comes from not understanding and not knowing. I want to urge each and every one of you to maybe just engage with this presentation on with a real desire to know more. I've gone to great lengths to make this as simple as possible. So this is very basic information, but I think it'll give you the gist. And I think this is a good way for you to determine where to start, and to believe that you are actually somebody that can invest and should invest. So yeah, I think I just want to remove some of the fear that people may have in their hearts regarding investments, and just make people see that there's a real place and a purpose for them to be able to connect with it. The more they seek the education on it, like I said, it is each of ours responsibility to seek that information. It is readily available on platforms such as this one. So yeah, without further ado, let's get to it. Fantastic. So this is Investments 101. Basically, the very, very first question that most people ask is, what is investing and why should I care? I think there's a lot of people that ask that question and don't really care, because you don't know what you don't know. So yeah, that's the reason why I'd like to just put just shed a little bit of light on that for you. So investing at its heart is the trading of your money today for some more money in the future. That's the basic principle at play here. You're basically putting your money somewhere and then expecting it to grow. The same way you would put a seed in the ground, you would expect it to grow over time and only bear fruit in the future. That's the way that I think that you need to approach investments. It will always be a long-term thing. There is no thing such as a get-rich-quick scheme. If somebody tells you that they've got an investment opportunity for you to double your money, it's probably a lie or a scam. I know that there's cool things like cryptocurrency and stuff like that you could probably do that. But if you're uninformed on how these things work, I would suggest that you do not engage in that kind of opportunity. So if you want to look at those kind of investments, I would say that you need to spend extensive time studying the intricacies that these investment opportunities offer, because the pitfalls are massive and the risk is very high. So you just need to know that you are taking these risks appropriately and that you are calculating them adequately. So mostly when people think of investments, they think of the stock market, but starting a business and purchasing a property could also be an investment. So it's really important for you to understand how you gauge the differences between these, but also important for you to understand that it is good to just start. It's better to start than to just wonder the rest of your life. And I kept the best statement for last. It's obviously investments by definition. It's a high yield kind of. I'm going through these slides here. It's a high yield opportunity, and the operative word here is going to be long term. You always have to have a long term approach. Warren Buffett, I think, says when you buy investments, buy it as if you are going to hold on to it for the rest of your life. Obviously, there are various approaches, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in the coming slides. So why do you invest? Why would you invest your money into markets that are so volatile? Isn't it risky? That's the question that I get most of the time. And this is where that fear that I'd like to alleviate for you today. If I get that right and just get you guys to understand that it's not as daunting as you may put it out in your mind to be. The only real fear that you have is the fear that you are construing in your own mind. Sure, it is risky, but like I mentioned to you previously, if you're playing a long-term game here, that risk is almost always mitigated, and you're invariably put in a position where growth is inevitable. But the point is that you need to take responsibility of educating yourself on how these different structures work. So what I want to put out for you today is to just see what the different structures are, what the different strategies are, so that you can start asking yourself the relevant questions. Okay, so please just keep that in mind as I proceed with this. And obviously we will have some questions and answers afterwards. There has been questions and answers on the previous 2 seminars. I haven't been able to get to all of them. I'm really sorry about that. I've been completely overwhelmed and humbled by your response. And I promise you that I will get to them. I was thinking to actually make a video of the common themed questions and then also answer some of the questions and then send that on to Gillian and the team so that you guys can have access to those answers. I think it could serve everyone adequately. But one of the common approaches from the market is this fear that I've been speaking about. If you're afraid of the market, what is the first approach that common people would probably do? So I would say it's stop, drop, and roll. But that's probably for another strategy. And I think the best way for you to say is that people would go into just trying to save into their checking or savings account. So the problem with this is that, yes, it puts you in a position where you can, transfer money from a checking account into a savings account. And I know some bank accounts give you the opportunity or the option to be able to open various accounts for, so that you can almost put your money into little envelopes. That's really great for budgeting, and it helps you to track your spend, and it helps you to allocate money to certain places. But under no circumstances, guys, are you investing your money. And this is what I want to bring to your attention today. If you're fearful of the market and you're saving money like that, you are just shooting yourself in the foot. Now, that's by no means a measurement, a judgment from my side to you. It's really just me enlightening you that you can start at least looking at saving a portion of your money into an investment strategy rather than keeping it all into your bank accounts. Because when you deposit money into a bank, it turns right around and that institution will then invest your money at 7% a year or more, depending on the markets. And after they collect their profits, they will give you a tiny shaving of those profits. So the banks are investing your money because you are fearful of doing it. Just remember that the next time you approach, your savings account as something that's going to be your approach to investments. I know that banks have investment opportunities. I'm not talking about the investment accounts that banks open. I'm talking about specifically if you are somebody that you save all your money predominantly within a checking or a savings account. I would just suggest that you maybe if it's a big step for you to start doing investments, I would say to maybe just look at saving 10% of your savings into an investment just to start the process and remove some of that fear for yourself. So checking and savings versus investments. Over a 30-year period, as I mentioned, investment is always a long-term approach in most cases. But if you're looking at your checking account versus your savings account, there's basically an annual of 0.5 or 0.9%. I know the banks state it differently, but they give you these promises before fees. I can assure you that you're welcome to go look at it yourself. It depends on, it varies from bank to bank, but across the board, this is basically what you're looking at. And then based on or compared to just a normal run-of-the-mill investment, you can expect anything from 5.9% to about 7%, and even more in better markets. So just from that point of view, you can see you're better off keeping 90% of your money in a checking account and 10% in investments than 10% in a checking account and 90% in your savings account. That was for free, guys. I mean, this is really, if you're not willing to take the risk and put your money into investments, I would just suggest to open something small and just get yourself into the habit of doing it and seeing that it's not so daunting. Speaking to a financial advisor that is willing to coach you. I would suggest, if talking to a financial advisor, that it's not just somebody that's going to push products on you, but it's somebody that has a due process that they follow. Because it's not just about you plugging into an investment, it's actually about you understanding how that investment is going to serve you in the future, and what the purpose is of that. So you really need somebody that's going to delve deep and ask you relevant questions, so that you can find the strategy and also manage your expectation on what that strategy might look like for you in the future. So the question is, where do we start, right? I think the first thing that you need to do before you start thinking about what investment strategy is best for you and which investments are going to give you the highest returns, and all of these, run-of-the-mill investment questions that people seem to affiliate with having to invest. Then, end of the day, you need, like I said, you need to know what the purpose of your investment is, because if you're going to do proper financial planning and you're going to follow a process, you're going to have different investments for different goals, and you will manage them accordingly. So I think to start off, you need to figure out what your goals are. Each goal will have a specific strategy, and if you don't know what your goals are, you can't even start talking about strategy. I have so many people coming to me and saying, I want this particular investment because a mate of mine got good returns. Those clients, most of the time we show away, because those are not, that's somebody that's willing to just, invest because they want their money to grow, and that's fine. But in the end of the day, if you're going to affiliate yourself with a financial planning practice, or if you're going to manage your investments on your own, and I think it's important for you to understand why you are investing before you start talking about strategies. And that's just, I think I've stressed that point enough. So what I would say for you to start, if you want to start today, is write down at least 5 goals that you have for your life. I know everyone talks about goals, but the reason why everyone does is because they are so significant. Because your goals are going to be relevant for just you. And you're going to need to determine which of these goals are long-term. So that's going to be longer than 5 years from now, and which of these are going to be short-term, so less than 5 years. Okay, and I would say that a good place to start is going to be with your short-term investments. So what is your short-term goal investment strategy going to be? So this is going to be typically for your rainy day fund. Those of you who have attended the previous sessions, you will see that I spoke a little bit about a rainy day fund. This typically is your very start to in the investment world. This is a very low risk investment. What you want, your savings goal in there would be to have at least 3 to 6 months of your salary in there. This would be for exactly what it is for rainy days. Unexpected expenses in a liquid investment that's not going to, force you in these rainy days to access your investments that are a little bit more fixed and, connotated to market volatility, that will make you lose some of your wealth. So let me give you an example of why this is important and why this strategy will work for you so well. If you don't have a rainy day fund, and you go straight into something like an endowment because you've got a fixed plan to save for a specific goal for the next 5 years. Let's say, for instance, you want to purchase a new car, but you want to buy this car cash in 5 years. That could be a very nice tool to be able to do that. An endowment is only going to give you one withdrawal in the 5 years time. And anytime after that, the penalty fees are going to vary from 15% to 0% over that term. So why you would want a money market unit trust kind of investment is because it's not connotated to the market. So the strategy here is not for you to knock out the lights in terms of returns. You want to just get enough return that you're actually just keeping up with inflation. So roughly around 6% that you want from that. And the money market has been giving that over the last couple of years sustainably. But because there's no market connotation, the volatility will, on the specific day that you need to withdraw from that fund, you will not be buying the units at a lower price should the market have crashed that day, that you have to now lose some of your wealth, or that you're in a wrapper that only gives you access to the money once, and then from there the money is fixed. And then if you want to withdraw from that there's quite heavy penalties, and all the growth that you've experienced is lost. So that's the whole reason for that. Your short-term goal investment strategy is quite simple, and the process to set these investments up are really, really easy. My team can set up a unit trust like this for you in a matter of minutes, actually. So it's really not complicated, and it's quite liquid. You will be able to have access to this investment. You will be able to withdraw from it and add as you like. There's no fixed term. It's really, really cost effective. It's actually more cost effective than having your money in the bank. And that's the example that I was using earlier to say, if you can start putting just 10% of your money in there, just with the sole purpose of reaching about 3 to 6 months of salary, that in itself will remove all your fear of this process. It's just starting, because there's so much speculation out there. There's so many people that have the wrong impressions of investments. Unfortunately, yes, people have been burned. But a lot of people get burned because they did not take the responsibility of educating themselves adequately and took a risk without mitigating it or understanding what that risk, how that risk applies to their specific life. So that's a very important point. So your long-term investment strategy is going to be retirement annuities, which is a very tax-effective investment vehicle. I think most South Africans have a retirement annuity. It's a nice way for you to get SARS to fund a part of your, retirement. Definitely something that I think if you ever start talking to a financial advisor or to your tax consultant would be the very first thing that if you are looking to start investing for a longer term, this would be a good place to start. The process is also quite easy and simple. It will really just be some of your personal details, what the amount is that you want to, start investing, or if you have a very specific investment goal for your life. So that's why it's important to have a financial planner that actually asks relevant questions and has the tools at hand that can actually show you what you will need in retirement so that you can adequately start planning for that. Then the second one would be pensions or provident funds. These are typically employee benefits. It's mostly aimed at retirement. And the end of the day, this will be if, most of you will probably, if you're not going to work for yourself, end up at some sort of company, and these employee benefits would be added to you. It kind of work in the same way as a retirement annuity. It's fixed money. You can only access it at retirement. 55 is the early retirement age. But generally people only access their retirement annuities from age 65 because people are living longer. And these days you have to plan not only for retiring, but actually living longer than the expected age. So bear that in mind too. Real estate, this is as definition, what real estate is land and the buildings on it. This is definitely, it's a very lucrative investment, but again, it requires significant information. You need to know what you're getting yourself into, because there's so many things that can go wrong here that this in its own right is probably more volatile than in the investment market itself, if you don't know what you're doing. So if there's any real estate fundies on here today, please don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that it's a bad investment. I'm just saying, like anything in life, if you do not know, rather know the devil, what is it? Rather the devil you know than the devil you don't. So find the flaws or the pitfalls before you start going into that. Get adequate advice and make sure that if you're going to go into the property side of things, that you understand the tax implication, because there's capital gains tax. There's all sorts of taxes that go with in hand with having a property. There's also all the costs that you need to incur to pay lawyers and all that kind of stuff. So I think mostly when people speak to their parents or to somebody that is in a later stage of their life, the first thing they'll say, no, but you need to buy your first property immediately. I agree to a certain extent, but if you're not geared for that, you could, and you approach this as something that you need to get done as quickly as possible, because your parents or your uncle or your auntie or somebody more senior than you is saying buy your property as soon as possible. I would say rather maybe sit down with a financial planner that's going to ask you questions regarding what is the purpose of this real estate, how is this going to pan out for you in the future, are you aware of these certain pitfalls, and then you can make an informed decision, because these bonds, they don't call it a bond for nothing. It is a bond, and you will need to adhere to the intricacies of that contract and the consequences of it once you've signed it. So best you know what you're getting yourself into. Then there's something called growth stocks. This is a share in a business that's shown above average earnings and has the potential to grow faster than the overall economy. Now that sounds great, right? Everybody wants growth stocks. Again, this is something that you need to know a little bit more about, and you need to just find out the ins and outs of how these stocks work. They are extremely volatile, and more often than not, if you're a beginner in terms of investments, I wouldn't suggest that you go into these kind of stocks. But in the end of the day, these growth stocks could be within specific funds. So if you have an appetite for risk and you have a little bit more information regarding investments, you've already gone the route of doing a rainy day fund for yourself, you've spent some time in the market yourself, I think it'd be good for your next step to be to put some money within a fund itself, and understand that within those funds there are different approaches to diversify and these portfolios and these stocks, that you're not just putting your eggs in one basket. I think you all heard that terminology before. Then you have dividend stocks. Dividends are distributions of a company, and these distributions are earnings to shareholders. The dividend earned on shares depend on the profit earned by the company. So basically, if you are working within an organization, and I think that if you haven't asked the question, how do you acquire shares, you haven't really shown your boss that you are serious about working there. And another thing for you to ask yourself is, are you really serious about working there, or is this just a job? Because if you're working somewhere and you believe in it as a cause, I would suggest that you need to look at how you can acquire some sort of share, even if it's just a 0.5% share. I think it will give you a lot more purpose within that organization, and give you the potential to earn more in the future. And it'll really impress your boss, I'm pretty sure about that. Or it'll threaten them, depending on who they are. All right, but that's enough about that. I think one of the other questions that people ask mostly is, what is portfolio diversification? I mentioned earlier that it's not just that you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, or you could not just put all your straws in one cup. I'm a straws in one cup kind of guy. So I think in the end of the day, you need to understand that diversification is a term that's broadly used and hardly understood, but I'd like to just shed some light on that today. So I've briefly explained to you the difference in strategies for long-term and short-term, and combining those two is where you start diversifying. So basically, if you look at the top of the screen, it'll be your portfolio. That's you as a person. You have different products across the board. You probably have, a pension or provident fund. You're probably looking at buying a home. You have a retirement annuity, or the betterment of your properties, or the betterment of your, financial situation. So there's different, tiers here that you can fall within. And within that, you can actually then start mixing up different, investment strategies, because there are mainly 4 different types of investments. Obviously, there's way more, but just for the sake of this particular slide, I'm just going to stick to the basics. So you can see that under your retirement annuity, for the slide in the middle of the little green pig, there they've got stock funds, they've got a little bit of property stocks, and then they've also, or individual stocks, and then they've also got bonds. So that just means that that person would be invested into a fund, and the diversification would be from the likes of the investment house. Should it be Allen Gray or Mutual or Investec or any one of these? They have different fund managers that kind of take the best of each, and they put or the best of each fund manager and the performance in that, and then they put them together. That's diversifying in a nutshell. It's really not as complicated as people may think, and the investment world has made it really, really easy. Sometimes, or if you have any investment products, most of you would probably be invested in something like a balanced fund. If you ever hear a balanced fund, then you know that you have some diversification within your portfolio already. That's exactly what it means, is that it's well balanced between individual stocks, stock funds, bonds, and bond funds at the end of the day. Then there is something called Regulation 28 that all financial houses need to adhere to. That just means that you can't have more than 75% of your money in equity, and that's the cap basically. So just a little pitfall: over diversification can also be dangerous. So don't try and complicate it for yourself. Don't reinvent the wheel. Most of these products have been put together significantly. I think it's just important for you to manage your expectation and know what the strategy is. So don't try and overcomplicate it for yourself. Like I said, most of these product houses have done all the legwork for you. So probably one of my favorite people within the financial space, just because of the gentleman that he is and his viewpoint on life itself. He's made a bucket load of money, but that's hardly the thing that he ever focuses on. He's a really heartfelt guy, and so I thought it would be relevant for us to just get some top tips from Mr. Buffett himself. So the one thing that he says is risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. I think I've made that point quite a few times on this webinar today. It's really, guys, it is your own responsibility. I will be sending out a investment course for each of you. Should you engage with me on LinkedIn or any one of those platforms, I will happily send that on to you. But I think the end of the day is education here is key for you to understand what investments are. What are you getting yourself into? Don't just rely on the, that all financial advisors out there have the, have your best interest at heart. Unfortunately, there's no way to mitigate that. The only way that you can mitigate that is that you know that you're asking the right questions, and that you can entrust that process to somebody that you can actually then, trust yourself, and also know that they are adequately informed to actually handle your affairs. But in today's world, it is also quite easy to be able to manage your investments on your own. It's just, I think, from an administrative point of view, it becomes a little bit laborious, and it becomes something that could put you at risk of not knowing what the latest trends are and how to move funds and all that kind of stuff. But definitely something that you can manage yourself should you have enough information. So be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. What Mr. Buffett is referring to here is that this should be your approach to how you buy certain stocks and how you view investments. So that you're not just, when you're in a position to invest, that you just invest in the first thing. You kind of need to be looking at the markets. The investment markets are always something that's doing exactly the same cycle. You'll see spikes in the market, and then you see dips in the market. It kind of feels like we're always going into a recession, and we're always coming out of the recession. But that's just the nature of the beast. At the end of the day, the sooner that you come to peace or come to grips with that, you can actually ride that wave because you are aware of it. You're not one of those people that's conforming to all this, talk about, that life is just becoming too expensive and that we're all in recession and, all of this doom and gloom. The point is that this economic cycle has been going and going and going since the beginning of the information revolution. So, we've got some track record that we can, stick to. And I think what Mr. Buffett is just saying here is that your strategy must just be, when other people are buying and buying and buying and buying, be fearful to your approach to that investment. And then as soon as you see that others are becoming fearful of the market, that means that when it's starting to dip down, or when it's starting to, dip down, just be greedy. Don't just sell your investments in those times. Keep them and be greedy with the way that you approach your investment in that term. So then one thing that really resonates with me is you can't make a good deal with a bad person. Now, I don't think, in essence, anybody is really bad. I just think that sometimes people have, their own intentions. And at the end of the day, it is your responsibility yet again to mitigate that. But you need to kind of know what it is that you want in life. And take that responsibility, and also have the emotional intelligence to be able to know when you are connecting with somebody that has your best interest at heart. I've mentioned this earlier in the webinar, is buy it thinking that you will hold it forever. Truly, guys, this should be your approach to investments. The reason why this is important is that, once you get into the habit of putting money into an investment and withdrawing it whenever it's, relevant or whenever it's convenient for you, you're really taking away the this eighth wonder of the world, which is called compound interest. That compounding effect, if you do not know what that is, please go look it up. It is actually quite phenomenal, and this is why I've stressed so much that investments should always be a long-term approach. That's why you have the short-term approach. So that you can mitigate that for you, that you have short-term approaches for specific needs, but that investment should be something that you view as something for your whole lifetime. When you have the mentality to hold on to your investments, you're really gearing yourself up to start seeing compound interest. And once that compound interest starts coming into effect, and you can see the snowball effect of that, it really gets you excited for that. And once you're excited about your investments, I promise you that you will protect them with everything you have. But yeah, so I think the other one that you need to realize as soon as possible, and I'm pretty sure that most of you sitting here has already come to grips with that, is that the most important investment is yourself. You need to know who you are. You need to know where you are going. You need to take time nurturing yourself, and you need to take time to nurture your future and to map that kind of stuff out for you. I think it's important to find mentorship, seeking that wise counsel for yourself, to know what your triggers are in life. Who are the people that you need to forgive so that you don't have those bonds, those bondages that you carry with you. What is your life's purpose? What is your purpose statement? Is one of the questions I ask my clients is, what do you want from this life that you have? I think the idea is that most people say to shoot for the stars. I'm going to shoot for the stars and then hope to land on the moon. I think that's a silly approach. I think it's a very clever thing to say, but in the end of the day, I think you should want to get to the moon and plan to get there adequately, and know that it is your responsibility to navigate that process and the journey to there, and understand that the moon is far away. It takes a long time to get there, and that you spend time learning from the mistakes that you've made along the way, so that you can expedite that process as you learn. But very important to know that everything in life comes at a cost, and it is your responsibility to know what that cost is. Everything that you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. Be aware of these things. very important to spend what is left after saving. I think generally the approach is that people buy what they need first, and then if there's anything left at the end of the month, they try and save it. More often than not, that doesn't work. So I say pay yourself first. And when I say pay yourself first, I don't mean that Gucci handbag that you ladies want. I'm really talking here about paying your future self first. Because if you have clearly defined your goals, and that and this is something that resonates you with on a deeply emotional and spiritual level, you will do everything in your power to make sure that that future self is in the best possible state of mind and the best financial situation to be able to achieve these things. So yeah, definitely, if you haven't started doing that, start small. You don't have to start saving 30% of your income now. If you're still in debt, I would suggest that you consult somebody on how to get out of debt. I have spent some time in the previous 2 sessions talking about that. Maybe Gillian and the team will allow me on sometime again so we can just focus on a debt discussion. This is something that's really come up a lot in your questions to me over this seminar. It just made me realize again the importance of educating ourselves on how to get out of debt. And I understand that a lot of us can't go through life without starting with some debt, but at least if you do have debt, have a significant strategy to get out of it, so that you don't snowball in the wrong direction. Don't rely on one income. I've spoken about this quite a few times. Passive income is key here, guys. What you earn from your job is not a passive income. That is something that requires you to be there. And the time that you spend, or the time that you spend physically laboring, will result in an income. That's great, and we all will have those jobs. But I think what you need to start construing in your mind is that you've got some gifts and talents, and we're all unique. So if you start harboring a solution-orientated mindset where you ask yourself, what do the people around me need, that you can actually deliver on that in a way that doesn't exhaust your time, it actually energizes you. I think that's something that you need to start thinking about. It's different for every person. My wife's recently started a little business called the Bohemian Artisan. She just loves design, so she sells little baskets, these Malawian baskets, and it just fulfills her. She's got a very intense job that requires her undivided attention. It doesn't fulfill her, but it pays our bills. But then she's got this business on the side that, yes, she spends time communicating with clients and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't feel to her like work because it's a passion. So even that could be a passive income, but you're truly looking for ideas that doesn't require your physical time anymore. I know this takes time to build, but there really are very, very cool ideas. The internet is full of them on how to begin. You're welcome to maybe engage with me if you want. If you can give me some of your ideas, I can tell you what the trajectory of this is. But the idea here is to start believing that there's more for you and that you can actually create multiple streams of income for yourself. The idea is to understand that your gifts and talents will always be unique to you, and that is actually your gift to the world. And that there would be appropriate compensation should you start believing in yourself like that, and that you don't just leave your life to chance and kind of end up in your dead-end job. I know so many of these motivational speakers talk about finding your passion and doing what you love. Not all of us have the privilege of doing that, but all of us have this enlightenment of our own minds to understand who we are intrinsically and what do we connect with. If you start there, I promise you, over a period of time, you'll see these opportunities coming to you. But you just need to open your mind up to that and believe that you can create multiple streams of income just by being you and being solution orientated to the world. Cool. So I really like this one. Price is what you pay and value is what you get. I have the belief that in Afrikaans they say goedkoop koop is duur koop. And I'm not saying go out and buy the most expensive thing that you find, but understand that there's a certain value to things. And again, it's your responsibility to know what the value of things are, to know that there's a lifetime to things, and that you can't just be a consumer. You can't just be somebody that pays the price for something and then gets it and then uses it up until. So you need to really have a quality over quantity mindset. That will really serve you well. It will also put you in a position where this instant gratification mindset that we have mostly adopted will start falling away, because you are looking for quality rather than quantity, and you're looking for the value of something. More often than not, it's going to put you in a position where you probably have to save for it. And that just means that you will value it even more because you haven't just bought it because it was accessible at that point. So that's really my approach to how I spend on things in life. I make sure that everything that I purchase is of high quality, that it doesn't make me a consumer. I don't just use and throw away. Obviously, there's many consumer goods that we have no way of getting away from. But in the end of the day, if you're talking about service from that point as well, you need to understand that you're paying somebody for a certain service, or somebody is paying you for a certain service, and the value is what you give them, or the value is what you get in return. And it's something that you need to look for. So just the last three final thoughts. Before we'll open up the floor for some questions and answers. I see that there is a few that have come through. I think you can start in the Q&A session, just start giving me your questions, and we will spend some time answering them after this. All right, so the first one is eye on the prize. Life is not a problem to be solved, but it is a reality to be experienced. This is something that I think really resonates with me because I'm a man and I'm problem solving orientated, but sometimes I need to just realize that the reality that I'm in holds so much answers to my life, that if I just open myself up to being fully present in where I'm at right now, I would probably have the answer in front of me, and I don't have to spend so much time trying to solve everything because I'm actually present, I'm asking questions, I'm fully aware of the people around me, and I'm fully aware of the emotional, physical, and spiritual state that I am in personally, and it will also allow you to be a little bit more vulnerable instead of having your guard up all the time. This is something that I needed to learn and still probably struggle with, and I think most of us do, based on the nature of life. Just saying that being tired is almost like a status symbol. Everybody brags about how much they work and how hard they work all the time, and it's like kind of something that people have put themselves on this pedestal because you're hardworking. Of course, you should be hardworking. But you need to know that there's so much more to life than just increasing its speed. That doesn't necessarily lead to having more. You have to have a long-term approach to your life, as with your investments. You can't just do more and expect more. That is not sustainable. It really needs to be that you have a sustainable approach to your life and the way that you actually show up in it. So the last one is change is as good as a holiday. And that is a law of life. Those who only look to the past or present will certainly miss the future. That's by Mr. John F. Kennedy. I think that that's quite phenomenal, and it really speaks for itself. Anyway, guys, I think I've said enough, and I'd like to hand over the floor to Gillian. Thank you once again for your time. As I previously mentioned to you, I will be giving away or giving you guys some tools after this session. Should you reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can just scan this barcode. There will be all my information will be available to you there. Like I said, I'm very happy to answer some of your questions. So I will be giving away to three people that ask, or just write your money story or write your 5 top goals. I will choose 3 people out of that will be able to go through our integrated wealth planning process. It's obviously not an obligation kind of thing. I think it will be highly educational for you. So if you are willing to, if that's something that interests you, please connect with us and we'll be happy to help. Over to you, Gillian. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rudi. And I really want to say thank you for helping us build a better financial future, because often it's not something that's top of our minds. We have financial worries and financial curiosity into what can I do with my money. And your series has really helped us to build a better financial future for us. And if you're willing to have us, we'll definitely have you for a debt repayment session. I think we see that coming up quite a lot during our sessions with you. So we'd be happy to host that with you. And I think to end of our session, I'm going to ask you some of the questions that came through from our members. So let me start. Richard asked, how do we negotiate the tax implications of investments? Is it possible that an investment becomes too expensive because of tax?
That's quite a high-level question, Richard, and I'd like to maybe connect with you on an individual level for the purposes of answering you correctly. But just to give you a broad overview, tax is inevitable. Death and taxes, you can't get away from it. It comes down to actually, you taking responsibility of knowing what the tax implications are of each investment structure, because again, it will come down to knowing what your strategy is and why you're actually following that strategy. If you are making investments for tax purposes, I would really suggest that you sit down with a tax consultant or a fully fledged financial planner that understands the ins and outs of this. But again, this will be very relevant to each person's portfolio. It will be, it will change from person to person, thinking about what you earn and so forth. So there's many different things that you need to take into consideration. Have we lost Gillian?
We've lost Gillian. I can ask the next question for you, Rudi. It is, may I ask the price of the investment course that Mr. Bouwer is offering to give us once we contact him?
It is free. I know there's nothing such as a free lunch, but there is such a thing as a free investment course. My ties with Golden Key really is not to make money. It's truly to educate the younger generation and to offer education to people that are willing to count the cost and actually see their lives come to fruition because of the the cost that they're willing to take. So yeah, it's completely free.
Next question. What platform do you recommend to buy individual stocks?
Again, this is something that I'd need to sit down with you to just determine what your strategy is, why you would want to buy individual stocks. But there are many platforms. That's the point, is that I don't want to use this platform to promote any specific financial houses. So I think that's a question that you should possibly ask me directly, and I can give you some of the overview in that, purely just to respect the platform. I'm sure you can understand that.
Then there's another one. How does one start watching the market?
Yeah, so you can watch the market in many ways. I don't know how well it's going to serve you. I think it will give you more anxiety than anything else. So watching the market will yeah, there's many platforms. I mean, you can just go on, the Financial 24. There's many markets that you can actually look at. I think, again, this is a high level investment question, and I think if you don't understand the implications of what the various attributes of the market is, you wouldn't know what to watch for. So I know that a lot of you are scholars and understand investments. So I'm not undermining your skill or expertise or knowledge on investments whatsoever. I just think the important thing for people to know is that if you want to manage every aspect of your investments to the extent that you want to start watching the market, I think that you're opening yourself up to a little bit of anxiety, because the markets are so volatile, and they fall all over the place. And the point that I'm trying to make, and I think I made it extensively over the course of this webinar, is to understand that when you're investing, that your approach should be long term. If you have that mindset regarding investments, you will almost never fail, purely because of the history that we've got, seeing how markets go up and down. But that trajectory of any investment will more often than not always go up. But it's important to, when entering, that you have sufficient information to know that what you're entering into, and then kind of rather stick to that through the tough times. Last year when COVID hit, the markets took a 40% crash in one day. You can imagine the phone calls that we had. The end of the day, our advice to probably 90% of our clients was to stay in the market and not realize their loss. And that served us very, very well, and served our clients very, very well, because as you all know, the markets have recovered beautifully, and everybody's actually made significant growth within a very short period of time, because they were able to stick through the market. So I don't know if I've answered your question adequately, but I just want to leave you with this. I think trying to watch the market, if that's not your job per se, will just lead to anxiety, and it's not necessary.
Thanks, Rudi. Apologies. This virtual working's got us all up and down.
No problem.
So Rudi, a few of the members have been asking if it's possible for them to invest in a unit trust as an individual, or do they have to do it through a financial planner?
No, I think that I really wanted to make that point. You can definitely. A unit trust is probably the easiest investment for you to manage yourself. I'd be more than happy to set it up for you guys as well, because it's the fees and stuff that we ask will be the same that you would get from just doing it directly. And also from that point, as I think, as long as you just understand the platform and use an investment house that gives you the adequate tools to be able to make withdrawals and make investments and switch in between funds. If you've never done something like that, and don't really understand, I would suggest maybe going the route of using a financial planner, just to see how the process works. But generally, it's quite easy for an individual to just open up their own unit trust and lump money and do withdrawals. Yeah, it's really not rocket science. I think where the intricacy really comes in is regarding the administration in the background, and making sure that you're up to date with what the latest funds are doing and how that growth is going. But if it's just for a rainy day fund and you're going to be invested in a money market, and it's for your own leisure, you don't have to, not wanting to ask a financial advisor for permission to draw your own money, then yeah, I'd be happy to advise you on how to start doing that.
Thank you very much, Rudi. Rudi, can you please repeat the part of the 3 people submitting stories to you, their financial?
Sure, definitely. Okay, guys. So this to me is something very close to my heart. This process is something that has changed my life significantly and my client's life. We call it the integrated wealth planning process. It's a fully fledged process that I actually charge 15,000 Rand per person for. And the reason why I say the amount for you is to know that this is something that we take extremely seriously. So if this is not just a freebie that I'd like to hand out, it really uses most of my resources. It's a fully fledged financial planning process, and I think will serve you adequately. So what I'd want from you is you need to write down your money story for me. I just need you to think about the first time that you realized money had a value. What was that? What did that look like? What did that day look like? That emotion. Really connect with yourself. You don't have to write a book for me. This is not for me. It's really for you. And then very importantly, just give me 5 of your, 5 goals that you would like to achieve in your life. My team and I will choose three people that we would go through the process with, but every single one of you that submit that to me will get a investment course. This is really just for me to be able to know that you're serious about this, and this is something that you're willing to count the cost first before just getting something for free. It's really, that's the approach.
Thank you very much. Then, as I think we all expected, there's a few questions about cryptocurrencies coming through. So someone's just asking your thoughts, and then there's also someone asking if they should invest in it. What portion of investment do they do in that? Do they do a total portfolio or only a partial investment?
Yeah, crypto is an interesting one. I think if you're going to ask for my honest opinion, I'm going to say if you have money for Jan, then use that on crypto. I know that there are many people and many of my friends and people that I know well that have done really well on crypto, but they're also really smart and understand, how this, new way of currency actually works. However, if you're not in the space of understanding it, like all investments, rather don't get involved in it right now. If you have some information on it, I wouldn't suggest that if you have significant information on it, and to answer this particular person's question, definitely not your full portfolio. It's just way too risky. The volatility could literally mean that it is from 0 to 0 in a matter of hours. I just wouldn't take that kind of risk with my full portfolio. So it's still just there's too much uncertainty around crypto. There's no real particular governance. I know that they are putting measures in place. But I would say if you want to start operating in that space, just be careful, be mindful of what it is that you'd like to achieve, and just make sure that you're asking the right questions to the right people, and that you are not just, putting your eggs in one basket that, in my opinion, currently still has a bit of holes in it.
Thanks, Rudi. So I just want to make sure that everybody that's online, we will not be able to cover all of the questions with Rudi today. There are a lot of questions coming through. We will send through all of the questions to him. And as he mentioned in the beginning of this session, he'll work through it, answer some on video, and give us some content for the others. And we will send that through to you. So please don't be alarmed if we did miss your question. And then for the submission, Rudi did put on his contact details on the screen. If you scan the QR code, you can do the submissions directly to him. So you don't have to send it through to us first. Your submission will be confidential on Rudi's side. Yeah. Then, sorry. Then, Rudi, I think what we can do is I'll ask you one last question for today's session, just to end us off on a high note. I know we've taken a lot of your time today and this last month, but we really do appreciate all of it. So we have one member asking, or firstly saying thank you for a great webinar. But then their question is, where should one start investing short term? For example, for a holiday, can you use investments as a method to save up money? Or what do you have in mind for something like that?
Yeah, for a holiday, it's either going to be a period of up to 12 months. So a unit trust would be a very good place to do that. I know that a lot of people save for their holidays within their banking accounts, or in a checking account or in a savings account. I know that Capitec has these little savings portions, and FNB, I think, has savings pockets. The problem with these structures is that it's too enticing to withdraw from them. If you don't have real discipline in terms of your own finances, it's one thing to hear information, it's a very different thing to actually implement it yourself. And this is something that takes time. So I think if you're really serious about your holiday savings goal, it would be advisable for you to open something like a unit trust and just save money within there. If you know that the holiday is only going to be in 12 to 18 months from now, you could even take a little bit of risk, more than just the money market itself, just to get a little bit more growth on that investment itself. But the strategy here really would be to keep the money out of your hands, and keep away from that the impulse buying that happens in the shop itself, when my wife looks at me with those beautiful puppy eyes, and I have to just transfer from the savings account into the checking account and give her what she wants. It's that happy wife, happy life thing. But yeah, I think if you're saving for specific goals and it's really something that you don't want to put yourself into a position where you are enticed to spend. But if you have the ability to and the discipline to, then yeah, save it in a savings account. But as long as you know that you're allocating certain amounts for that specific goal, you will be well on your way to achieving it.
Thank you very much, Rudi. So that's all of the questions we're going to go through today. Like always, feedback is phenomenal, awesome, amazing. Thank you very much from Golden Key's side for sharing all of your insights and knowledge with us, so that we can take the next step with additional backing, additional financial sense to make the right decision. So Rudi, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for all of our members for joining. If you want to review this session or any of the previous ones, you can go to our YouTube channel, Golden Key Southern Africa. You can have a look at Rudi's platform as well, The Wealth Room. I know they also do YouTube videos on a lot of content. So please have a look, help yourselves with additional content. So thank you very much for joining, and we hope to see you on our next session. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.